Okay, another installment of Where the Sidewalk Ends. Tonight I still have Trippy over here, and apparently Cece's going to make herself heard. So we'll see how that goes. All right, so we're recipe for a hippopotamus sandwich. A hippo sandwich is easy to make. All you do is simply take one slice of bread, one slice of cake, some mayonnaise, one onion ring, one hippopotamus, one piece of string, a dash of pepper, and that ought to do it. And now comes the problem, biting into it. Ah. 18 flavors, 18 luscious, scrumptious flavors, chocolate, lime, and cherry, coffee, pumpkin, fudge, banana, caramel, cream, and boysenberry. Whoa, Cece. Thank you, Cece. Not really. Let's see here. Where were we? 18 flavors. 18 luscious, scrumptious flavors, chocolate, lime, and cherry. Coffee, pumpkin, fudge, banana, caramel, cream, and boysenberry. Rocky Road and toasted almond, butterscotch and vanilla dip. Butter brickle, apple ripple, coconut, and mocha chip. Brandy peach and lemon custard, each scoop lovely, smooth and round. Tallest ice cream cone in town, lying there, sniff, on the ground. Poor Angus. Oh, what do you do, poor Angus, when hunger makes you cry? I fix myself an omelet, sir, or fluffy clouds in sky. Oh, what do you wear, poor Angus, when the wind blows down the hills? I sew myself a warm cloak, sir, or of hope and daffodils. Oh, who do you love, poor Angus, when Catherine's left the moor? Oh, then, sir, that's the only time I feel I'm really poor. What a day! What a day! Oh, what a day! My baby brother ran away, and now my tuba will not play. I'm 8 years old and turning gray. Oh, what a day! Oh, what a day! I think we found his baby brother. Ma and God. Mom gave us fingers, Ma says. Use your fork. God gave us voices. Ma says, don't scream. Congratulations, Cece. That's a twofer tonight. Let's see. All right. Ma and God. God gave us fingers, Ma says. Use your fork. Ma gave us voices. Ma says, don't scream. Ma says eat broccoli, cereal, and carrots, but God gave us tasties for maple ice cream. Oh, God gave us tasties for maple ice cream. God gave us fingers. Ma says use your hanky. God gave us puddles. Ma says don't splash. Ma says be quiet, your father is sleeping. But God gave us garbage can covers to crash. God gave us fingers. Ma says put your gloves on. God gave us raindrops, and Ma says don't get wet. Ma says be careful and don't get too near to those strange, lovely dogs that God gave us to pet. God gave us fingers. Ma says go wash 'em. But God gave us coal bins and nice, dirty bodies. And I ain't too smart, but there's one thing for certain. Either Ma's wrong or else God is. I don't want to challenge that one. Bang clang. I'm Big Barney Zang of the Railroad Gang. My partner is Charlie O'Flynn. And I hold the nails for the big steel rails, and Charlie, he hammers 'em in. And most of the time he does just fine, but now and again he fails. Maybe tomorrow I'll hammer 'em in and let Charlie hold the nails. Oh, he got a nail in his head. That's gotta hurt. Traffic light. The traffic light simply will not turn green, so people stopped to wait. As the traffic rolled and the wind blew cold and the hour grew dark and late. Zoom, vroom, trucks, trailers, bikes, and limousines clattering by, me oh my, won't that light turn green? But the days turned weeks and the weeks turned months, and there on the corner they stood, twiddling their thumbs till the changing comes, the way good people should. And if you walk by that corner now, you may think it's rather strange to see them there as they hopefully gaze with the same smile on their very same face as they patiently stand in the very same place and wait for the light to change. Me stew. I have nothing to put in my stew, you see, not a bone or a bean or a black-eyed pea, so I'll just jump in the pot to see if I can make a stew out of me. I'll put in some pepper and salt and I'll sit in the bubbling water, I won't scream a bit. I'll sing while I simmer, I'll smile while I'm stewing, I'll taste myself often to see how I'm doing. I'll stir me around with this big wooden spoon and serve myself up at 1:15. So bring out your stew bowls and you gobblers and snackers. Farewell, and I hope you enjoy me with crackers. Oh, that's not going to be good. Double-tailed dog. Would you like to buy a dog with a tail at either end? He's quite the strangest dog there is in town. Though he's not too good at knowing just exactly where he's going, he is very, very good at sitting down. Trippy, shh. He doesn't have a place to put a collar, and I'll admit it's rather hard to lead him, and he cannot hear you call, for he has no ears at all. But it doesn't cost a single cent to feed him. He cannot bite, he'll never bark or growl. Just scratch him on his tail, he'll find it pleasing. But you'll have to take him out for twice as many walks, and I bet that you can quickly guess the reason. Oops. Paul Bunyan. He rode through the woods on a big blue ox. He had fists as hard as chopping blocks. 500 pounds and 9 feet tall, that's Paul. Talk about working when he swung his axe. You could hear it ring for 1.5 miles. And then he'd yell timber, and down she'd fall for Paul. Talk about drinking. That man's so mean, he'd never drink nothing but kerosene. And a 5-gallon can is a little bit small for Paul. Talk about tough. Well, he once had a fight with a thunderstorm on a cold, dark night. I ain't saying who won, but it don't storm at all round here, thanks to Paul. He was 90 years old when he said with a sigh, I think I'm going to lay right down and die, 'cause sunshine and sorrow is all I've seen it all, says Paul. He says there ain't no man alive can kill me, and ain't no woman round can thrill me, and I think heaven just might be a ball, says Paul. So he died, and we cried. It took 18 men just to bust the ground. It took 24 more just to lower him down. And we covered him up, and we figured that was all for Paul. But late in the night, the trees started shaking, the dogs started howling, and the earth started quaking, and out of the ground with a high yawl come Paul. He shook the dirt off of his clothes. He scratched his butt and wiped his nose. You know, being dead wasn't no fun at all, says Paul. He says, up in heaven they got no harps on their knees. Oh, up in heaven they got harps on their knees. They got clouds and wings, but they got no trees. I don't think that's much of a heaven at all, says Paul. So he jumped on his ox with a fare thee well. He says, I'll find out if there's trees in hell. And he rode away, and that was all we've ever seen of Paul. So the next time you hear a timber yell that sounds like coming from the pits of hell, then a weird and devilish ghostly wail, like somebody chopping on the devil's tail, then shout a call, a crash, a fall, that ain't no mortal man at all. That's Paul. Dancing pants. And now for the dancing pants, doing their fabulous dance. From the seat to the pleat, they'll bounce into the beat with no legs inside them and no feet beneath. They'll whirl and twirl and jiggle and prance. So just start the music and give them a chance. Let's give a big hand for the wonderful, marvelous, super sensational, utterly fabulous, talented dancing pants. I won't hatch. Oh, I am a chickie who lives in an egg, but I will not hatch, I will not hatch. The hens they all cackle, the roosters all beg, but I will not hatch, I will not hatch. For I hear all the talk of pollution and war as the people all shout and the airplanes roar, so I'm staying here where it's safe and it's warm, and I will not hatch. With his mouth full of food. Milford Dupree thought he knew it was rude. Though he knew it was rude, talked with his mouth full of food. He never would burp or walk out in the nude, but he talked with his mouth full of food. His mother said, Milford, it's crude and it's lewd to talk with your mouth full of food. Why, even the milk cow who's mooed as she chewed, never mooed with her mouth full of food. And the cuckoo would never have ever cuckooed if he cuckooed with his mouth full of food. His dad said, get married or get tattooed, but don't talk with your mouth full of food. If it was a crime, you would surely get sued if you talked with your mouth full of food. Why, just like an animal, you should be zooed if you talk with your mouth full of food. For you know you're all put in a terrible mood when you talk with your mouth full of food. They pleaded and begged, he just giggled and chewed and laughed with his mouth full of food. And they all advised him he simply poo-pooed. He poo-pooed with his mouth full of food. So they sent for a gluer and they had his mouth glued because he talked with his mouth full of food. Now instead of good morning, he said morning. My hobby. When you spit from the 26th floor and it floats on the breeze to the ground, does it fall upon hats or white Persian cats or the heads with a pitty-pat sound? I used to think life was a bore, but I don't feel that way anymore. As I count up the hits, as I smile, as I sit, as I spit from the 26th floor. Instructions. If you should ever choose to bathe an armadillo, use 1 bar of soap and a whole lot of hope in 72 pads of Brillo. The worst. When singing songs of scariness, of bloodiness and hairiness, I feel obligated at this moment to remind you of the most ferocious beast of all, 3,000 pounds and 9 feet tall, the glurpy, slurpy skakagral, who's standing right behind you. And with that, now one more. The bagpipe who didn't say no. It was 9 o'clock at midnight at a quarter after 3. What? It was 9 o'clock at midnight at a quarter after 3 when a turtle met a bagpipe on the shoreside by the sea. And the turtle said, "My dearie, may I sit with you? I'm weary." And the bagpipe didn't say no. Said the turtle to the bagpipe, "I have walked this lonely shore, and I have talked to the waves and the pebbles, but I've never loved before. Will you marry me today, dear?" "Is it no you're going to say, dear?" But the bagpipe didn't say no. Said the turtle to his darling, "Please excuse me if I stare, but you have the plattest skin, dear, and you have the strangest hair. If I begged you pretty please, love, could I give you just one squeeze, love?" And the bagpipe didn't say no. Said the turtle to the bagpipe, "Ah, you love me? Then confess. Let me whisper in your dainty ear and hold you to my chest." And he cuddled her and teased her and lovingly squeezed her, and the bagpipe said, "Ooh." Said the turtle to the bagpipe, "Did you honk or bray or neigh? For a ooga when you're kissed is such a heartless thing to say. Is it that I've offended? Is it that our love is ended?" And the bagpipe didn't say no. Said the turtle to the bagpipe, "Shall I leave you, darling wife? Shall I waddle off to Woden? Shall I crawl out of your life? Shall I move, depart, and go, dear? Oh, beg you, tell me no, dear." But the bagpipe didn't say no. So the turtle crept off crying, and he ne'er came back no more. And he left the bagpipe lying on that smooth and sandy shore. And some night when the tide is low, when the tide is low there, just walk up and say hello there, and politely ask the bagpipe if this story is really so. I assure you, darling children, that the bagpipe won't say no. And that is going to be enough for tonight. Good night, everybody. Good night, Poppets.